Shall we?
Let's do this.
Okay.
We just finished dusting.
Thursday, January the 16th. So glad that you're here. Here's what we're working on this morning. Hamilton fire crews, they're actually dealing with a house fire. Simone is on the scene here. This is in the East End that has spread to a neighboring home. Lots more on that.
The federal government has released new details of border security plans ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration.
And 3 more snowplows in Hamilton have clever new handles after the citywide vote. Okay, let's go on this Thursday morning, shall we? Maybe not quite as cold as we've seen the past couple of days.
And I noticed because it's cloudy.
Yeah. Oh, but wait, milder temperatures are on the doorstep.
Yeah, we're going to get like -1.
Well, we're going to hit on the plus side. We'll be +2 tomorrow.
Bring shorts up.
Some areas could get +3 tomorrow. So temperatures are going to start to rise because those winds are going to shift around. But the problem with those winds is the Niagara area going to get some snow squalls coming off of Lake Erie. So when you get a southerly wind coming into the Niagara Peninsula, could get 5, could get 10, maybe 12 centimeters of snow on and off throughout the day today. Hamilton could get a couple of centimeters. We're going to get some light snow on and off throughout the day today, fairly windy. Tomorrow, as those mild temperatures push in, we're going to get much windier conditions. Winds could gust to 60 kilometers an hour for the day tomorrow. But be careful, travel advisory in effect right now for the Niagara Peninsula, particularly the north shore of Lake Erie. So temperature, by the way, right now is -6. We're going to climb to -5 for the day today, and we'll talk about that coming up. Looking at traffic, 403 Waterdown Road, looks good. So that's moving nicely so far this morning. Nothing to see there. MTO traffic cameras, we'll just show you a few. Nikola Tesla Boulevard, pretty light here this morning. Nothing south of 2. East of 4th looks good, heading through Burlington, Oakville, even all the way through into Mississauga at the moment. We're doing pretty well. So we'll look at weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes as usual. Right now, the news.
Yeah, let's get into it because Hamilton fire crews, they're on scene at a house fire. This is in the city's East End that has spread to a neighboring home. I want to bring in Simone Gavros, who's joining us live from Country Club Drive with the details, and they're still trying to put this out, Simone?
Yeah, Tim, you can see here that fire crews are still working with that aerial unit to tackle any kind of hot spots that are still left over in this house here behind me. Now, just to give you an idea, this is just near the Red Hill and King Street here in the East End. And the fire chief here in Hamilton said that the fire happened just before 12:30 this morning. Now, thankfully, no one was home at the time of the fire, but you can see from behind me that the roof has collapsed, the floor have collapsed inside as well, and fire crews remain on scene, actively working to contain any kind of fire that's still left inside of the home at this time. But the fire chief says this is going to be a long, drawn-out situation.
The fire then broke through the roof. We had an exposure to the property to the south, number 160. Firefighters quickly got into that home. We had a fire in the attic caused by the exposure. The fire was quickly knocked down. We have had roof collapse on 156. This will be a long, drawn-out situation, as we also had floor collapse.
The fire here quickly intensified this morning, and multiple units were called in from across the city. Initially, firefighters believed that there may have been people inside. They made every effort to get in, but were met with heavy flames and heat and then had to get out. One firefighter suffered burns to their arms and were sent to hospital, and there's been no updates just yet on their condition. Now, the aerial unit and other defensive operations have been put to use to get as much water on this fire, but you can just see in these videos just how intense the situation was with these flames coming right out of the roof. Cunliffe also noted that there was a gas line that was severed at the side of the house, which led to additional attention needed there. At this point, Hamilton Fire estimates that damages are sitting at $1.5 to $2 million, and the Ontario Fire Marshal has also been notified. Now, Fire Chief Dave Cunliffe says that this is still an active situation. As you can still see behind me, they are still working with that aerial unit to tackle any kind of hot spots that are left over here in this home. They're going to be here for the rest of the morning, and they do say that they're hoping to attempt to enter the home fully to see any kind of causes. For now, things back over to you, Annette.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Simone. There has been a rescue and 2 arrests on the ice in Port Colborne. Niagara police say 2 men crossed Lake Erie on bicycles yesterday afternoon to the break wall near the Port Colborne Lighthouse. Police suspect that they had been stealing cable and wire at the break front. The Marine unit, wearing ice survival suits, walked across the ice to arrest one of them. The second man tried to get away and ended up walking in open water. He was arrested on shore. Both were assessed for hypothermia. More details on the arrests are expected later this morning.
A Waterloo regional police officer has been charged with assault for a second time. Hamilton police laid the latest charges after 2 off-duty incidents between last May and January the 1st. Waterloo police say the same member was charged with 2 separate counts of assault in Toronto last June. The officer's name has not been released. They have been suspended without pay.
A water main break on Hamilton's East Mountain is expected to cause road closures for the next day or 2. Crews have had to excavate part of Upper Ottawa between Sandalwood Avenue and Broker Drive after a water main break very early yesterday morning. We told you about it yesterday on Morning Live. After it's excavated, the road surface needs to be filled in. The work is expected to continue today and tomorrow. There are HSR detours in effect. The city says the section of Upper Ottawa should reopen by the end of Friday or Saturday morning at the latest.
75-year-old man from Norfolk County is missing. Norfolk OPP have not released his last name, but say Albert was last seen around 8:30 yesterday morning in Port Dover on New Lakeshore Drive near Ontario Street. Now, he drives a red 2018 Mitsubishi Mirage with the license plate BMVX385. Police say Albert is 5'8", the medium build, and gray hair.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has met with premiers, and they mostly agree that all options are on the table to respond to Donald Trump's tariff threat. Following their meeting in Ottawa, Trudeau says they have a commitment to stand together on a united path forward. However, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith quickly squashed that, saying Alberta will not support the deal unless restrictions on energy exports to the United States are off the table. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he respects Premier Smith's concerns about Alberta's energy exports, but says Canada has to come first.
I understand that all around the country, everyone has their concerns, their jurisdictions from coast to coast to coast. But there's one thing that's more important than jurisdictions, is standing up for the country. Country comes first over anything, and we're going to continue to fight against these tariffs, and we're going to use every tool in our toolbox to make sure that happens.
Now, Ford arrived at the Premier's meeting wearing that Canada is not for sale hat. It's not unlike Trump's red Make America Great Again hats. The online business that makes the headwear says it was inspired by a recent interview Ford had with Fox News in which the host pushed Trump's idea of annexation. Now, our federal government has announced further measures to enhance border security as it moves to stave off those tariffs.
Through joint efforts from Canada and the United States, less than 1% of the illegal drugs and crossings into the United States came from Canada. We have a strong border, and we are building a stronger one, an interconnected system to keep each other safe.
That's Public Safety Minister David McGuinty. He says the federal government's adding 60 new drones and 2 helicopters to boost border security ahead of Trump's inauguration on Monday. Federal government has also promised $1.3 billion in upgrades to address migrant and drug flow concerns.
Well, Brantford has been front and center as we get into Sportsline with the sale of the Bulldogs, and it looks like they're going to be staying in the Bell City. More on that in a second. But last night, the inaugural OHL Top Prospects game went down at the Civic Center, and the Dogs' Jake O'Brien was leading the way.
O'Brien, great play to keep it alive. To Martone, they score! Jake O'Brien to Porter Martone. Team East takes the victory.
Yeah, O'Brien is a top NHL prospect. Showed off in front of the hometown fans and scouts in the building, setting up Brampton's Porter Martone for the OT winner as the East beats the West 5-4 in a very entertaining affair. 42 OHL eligible players suited up, with O'Brien wearing the Captain C, and had 3 assists of the night to take home his team's Player of the Game honors in the inaugural Connor McDavid Top Prospects game. Well, earlier in the day, CHCH was there for the official passing of the Bulldogs torch as Michael Andlauer has owned the Bulldogs brand since 2003, has sold it to Zach Hyman and his family. So Zach, who plays for the Oilers, was in Minnesota for the game, so he joined via Zoom. But the debate was if the Hyman family, led by Zach and his brother Spencer, along with dad Stu, would keep the team in Brantford. Turns out the Dogs are going nowhere.
It wasn't fair for the city for me to be an absentee owner or not there as much for our players. And interestingly enough, I had never any desire to sell something that was near and dear and part of me. But I met the Hyman family late last summer. They're desirous of being in the OHL. And after several meetings, I realized that they had the same passion for the game of hockey as I did.
It's not just the hockey. It's everything that comes with it. It's the drive to the game with your dad. It's the dinner before the game. It's going and seeing the community rally together to support their team. That's what junior hockey is. Family, community, charity. Those are the values that we look to instill and continue that Michael's left behind with us in the Brantford Bulldogs.
And they will be in the city for the next 40 years as Mayor Kevin Davis announced the Hymans have signed a letter of memorandum to play in a proposed new rink with an initial 15-year deal with 5 5-year renewals. Bulldogs are going nowhere. Zach Hyman and family leading the way.
McDavid to Draisaitl, over to Hyman, to the net, and he scores!
And Zach Hyman was looking pretty darn good for the Oilers last night as he scored his 15th goal in Minnesota. Connor McDavid would add 2 goals and a helper. He passes Yari Curry for second on the all-time points list for the Oilers. Edmonton, they're cruising right now. They've won 7 of 8, 5-3 win over the Wilds. I want to check in on the Raptors, who welcomed the defending champs, the Boston Celtics, into the bank, and nobody gave Scotty Barnes and crew a chance because they lost to the Celtics by 54 on New Year's Eve. They have the second worst record in franchise history through this point of the season, only 9 wins. But miracles do happen, kids. RJ Barrett led the way with 22 points. Barnes added 18. The Raps snap a 10-game losing streak to Boston. They beat them 110-97. They reeled off 2 straight wins. They head to Milwaukee tomorrow for another tough test against the Greek Freak. And then there was one as we head down under to the Australian Open, where the only Canadian left is Leylah Fernandez, as both Denis Shapovalov and Gabriel Diallo were ousted overnight in their second round matches. Shapo losing to his Italian opponent, Lorenzo Musetti, in straight sets, while Diallo, playing in his first Aussie Open, lost to 19th ranked Karen Khachanov in 4 sets. So all eyes will be on Leylah. She's in tough, though, against third-ranked American Coco Gauff in the round of 32. That goes down early tomorrow morning.
Okay, 6:13. It's Thursday, 16th of January already. Let's get into traffic, and then we'll talk about the forecast. Looking at the 403 and Waterdown Road again, nothing to see there. It's doing fine. Basically, that's how our MTO traffic cameras look at the moment. We'll start in St. Catharines at Glendale. All doing fine there. That camera was just there, so we'll flip off that and go to east of 4th. Not a problem. Lauren Park looks good all the way through the 403 at Dundas. Generally speaking, we're pretty light volume so far today. Temperature right now still sitting at -6 this hour. It's fairly cloudy. We did have some light snow a little earlier. The winds are south-southwest at 24. That makes it feel like -13, so it's still a pretty chilly start for the day today. For today, for school, we are looking at a high of -5, so not too far to go. It's going to be fairly cloudy. We will get some flurries on and off. Hamilton could get a couple of centimeters of snow. However, the Niagara Peninsula is going to get a fair bit more due to the wind shifting around. So as you can see, that's the precipitation. It's all snow flurry activity we've had over the past 6 hours. It's a 6-hour loop. What we have is a warm front going through, and that's going to shift the winds around. Winds are going to come at us from the southwest instead of the northwest like we have had. So that's going to shift the lake effect snow machine into the Niagara Peninsula, where they could get 10 to 12 centimeters of snow for the day today. So Generally speaking, it's 2 to 10, possibly as high as 12, but Hamilton could get 2 centimeters, Niagara Peninsula 5 to 10 centimeters, other areas just some flurry activity, temperatures -4 to -5. Tonight doesn't fall too far, -3, 4, 7 degrees for Hamilton, -6 for Halton, for Peel into Toronto, and then tomorrow, look at the temperatures, plus side, 2, even 3 degrees in some areas, and a bit of sunshine. However, it will be windy tomorrow. The winds are going to gust to about 60 kilometers an hour. So out the door this morning, it's fairly cloudy. It is pretty windy as well. Temperature right now sitting at -6, wind chill -13. Long range coming up. Annette, Tim.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, off and running on your Thursday. Checking in with Emily right after the break. See what she has in Chit Chat. Also in business news, Walmart Canada has responded to concerns over underweight meat issues following a class action lawsuit. That and other biz news and too. Oh, hi, friend.
Oh, hi.
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 What you got today?
Ooh, I hope we get lots of snow.
Yes.
Because the results are in.
I was going to say, you've never said that before.
I know, there must be a catch, right? There's always a catch when I wish for winter. The snowplow names you've chosen this year for Hamilton's 10 snowplows we will discuss.
Okay.
Some good ones.
And the drama between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, it's continuing. We'll have details just ahead. And just like that, Sex and the City fans won't be able to stand on the steps of Carrie Bradshaw's famous home. We'll talk about that later on this morning.
Okay, we'll see you at that big red couch in a little bit for Chit Chats. Let's talk a little biz news, and we get into our numbers as we always do off the top. We're talking Canadian dollars. I clear my throat. Down. I wanted to make sure dramatic reading of the biz boards. Canadian dollar down 18 basis points. 69.58 cents US. Gold up $17.20. I promise it is, or that's what it says in the script. Crude, it's not animating, I'm being told by Justin Peeler. Come on, wake up, Market Watch. You're on.
Do you need me to do like a Market Watch
This is your
dance
time,
or
Market
something?
Watch. Yeah!
There we go.
Woo! All right, let's get to European trading. Hey, Europe. Markets are up in London, Frankfurt, and Paris.
In Asia, the markets were up across the board, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. And North American markets, so the TSX was up 200 points. Look at the triple-digit gains here. Dow Jones up more than 700, and the NASDAQ almost 470. Well, Walmart Canada is addressing an underweight meat pricing issue at one of its stores in Richmond, BC, and it calls it an isolated incident. Walmart says a third-party supplier was responsible for incorrectly weighing and labeling the products. The supplier took immediate corrective action when it was made aware that some of the products were priced incorrectly over 2 weeks last month. It follows a class action lawsuit that was filed last week in Vancouver, alleging that Walmart, Sobeys, and Loblaw misrepresented the weight of meat by including the weight of the packaging in the prices for the weight of the meat. Sobeys declined comment. Loblaw has yet to respond to this.
Home sales across Canada rose again in December. The Canadian Real Estate Association says the number of homes that changed hands across the country was up 19.2% from a year earlier. The association says the final 3 months of last year saw sales rise 10% from the third quarter, marking one of the busiest quarters in the last 20 years. This is aside from the pandemic. They say that bodes well for a rebound in sales this year.
Nearly half of Canadians say inflation and the cost of living are going to continue to be their biggest financial challenge this year. The TD Bank survey finds many respondents, particularly younger Canadians, plan to cut down their spending. Inflation has fallen back to around the Bank of Canada's 2% target, but the cost of living puts pressure on household budgets. The survey also says financial optimism has gotten a little bit better because 24% of people asked say they feel more confident about their finances.
Okay, let's look at business news. Let's keep rolling on your Thursday morning. Winds will be whipping up, which could really be affecting you in Niagara. Brian will tell you all about that after this.
Time for a traffic check at 6:24 on this Thursday morning. Nothing going on yet in the Niagara Peninsula. QEW at Martindale. Well, traffic-wise, anyhow, is doing fine, so nothing to see there. South of 2 wants to play this time. Okay, as you can see, Toronto-bound lanes heading away from us. Still moving fairly nicely. We'll flip ahead to east of 4th. The Ford plant looks good. Quick check here at the 427 Gardner QEW combination. Not a lot happening in traffic here this morning. Temperatures this morning, a lot better than they were yesterday morning. We were minus 13 at this time yesterday morning. We're sitting at minus 6 for Hamilton. Wind chill right now about minus 13. Minus 6 Mississauga, minus 3 Toronto, minus 4 into Grimsby. So today, seasonal temperatures minus 2 and minus 10. We think it's been cold for the past little while. Look at the record low for this date, minus 30 back in 2004. Yeah, so that is really cold. We are going to see a little light snow flurry activity, at least for the Hamilton area today. It'll be about 2 centimeters. Minus 7 for the first bell, minus 5 for after school. Now, as I said, Hamilton maybe 2 centimeters, but the Niagara Peninsula in a lot of areas, a travel advisory right now, because could get 5 to 10. Some areas maybe as much as 12 centimeters of snow today. So minus 5 today, minus 7 overnight tonight. Doesn't fall too far. And then look, the milder push of air. 2 degrees tomorrow, maybe some squeaks of some sun, but a fairly cloudy day. And then plus 1 again for Saturday. But the precipitation could be some flurries or even some shower activity. And then the bottom falls out once again. Look at these temperatures. Minus 7, minus 10 only for the high, with an overnight low of minus 19. Never mind the wind chill. So that's going to be cold as we continue through next week. At least we'll get some sun for midweek. That's a look at your forecast. And that, Tim.
God, look at Brian. Glass half full. At least we'll get some sun with minus 19.
More like shovel half full.
Oh, goodness. All right. So Coors Light has announced that it is temporarily changing its name to Monday's Light.
Since the last Monday Night Football game was played this week, Molson Coors, the parent company, says the new name is an attempt to, quote, bring chill to one of the worst Mondays of the year. So Coors Light attracted a lot of attention this past Monday with a series of ads that misspelled the word refreshment. It actually showed it as refreshment. I don't know if we have a shot of that or not, but it was like on one of those billboards in Times Square.
Really?
It said refreshment.
Oh, goodness. We've all had, I'm guilty of it on this show doing it.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
In a statement addressing the typo, Coors blamed it on a case of the Monday. So you can now find Monday's Light in the U.S. and Canada for a limited time.
I think within the Molson Coors world, there might be like more people to look at the word before it actually goes onto a billboard on Times Square. Anyway, Thursday. Glad you're here. Stay with us. We're back right after this.